Hello everybody, my name is Ian Ellis. I'm just going to do another film for Great Artist Steel. This is Monet's palette part 3, which is going to be the last one on Monet. We're going to be focusing on two colour mixing, how to get the colours for the Haystacks painting. The Haystacks painting was painted in 1890, kind of mid-range of his career, and the evidence is that he stopped using earth colours and started to use the no black, no earth colour, no yellow ochre, no red ochre, and we're going to see if we can get these colours just using this palette. Cobalt blue is here, viridian green, emerald green, cadmium yellow, cadmium orange, vermilion, alizarin crimson, cobalt violet, ultramarine blue. I put the two blues either side. You can see it's a circular thing where we're going around, but it's obviously much easier to do the two colour mixing when you put them in a line like that and you can see which ones go. So I'm going to start with the yellow sky, the kind of yellow sky here. Now, you'll see when I start mixing these colours, I've identified it as a yellow, so I'm going to get the colours either side. So I'm not going to use yellow at the moment anyway. I'm going to just try and get some of those sky colours using two colours either side of it. And using bits of orange and cadmium orange and emerald green. And as you can see, it's very dark, so if I'm going to get anything close to those colours, I'm going to have to stick a lot of white with it. When I'm going to say two colour mixing, white's not included. I'm just talking about the hues, two colours, what would they be? Now, you can see I'm getting quite a lot of green in that, so I'm just going to shift it over towards more of a yellow and put more white with it. And it's starting to move a bit closer to some of those colours I'm seeing over there. A little bit more orange maybe. And maybe some of those colours are in the sky. They're nice, quite nice actually. As they drop down, the colours get more lighter and more tint, and you can see there's no way I can get that colour. So this is where the third colour comes in, which is the yellow itself. So I'm going to start adding the yellow to some of these colours, and again lots more white, and I'm starting to get some really nice colours, and then maybe more white. That's lovely. And so I'm getting those colour shifts. So I've just stayed around those three. I'm not need to use any complementary colours. I've got some quite grey yellows and quite yellow oranges and these colours. We don't really need to know exactly pinpoint which colour it is. I mean, it could be a warm yellow or a cool yellow. All I'm doing is I'm identifying the colours I like, what I think are close to the colours up here. You can see some of these colours go a little bit more orange. So I can just put a bit more orange to one side, so there's that shift between the yellow going from orange to yellow, and if there's a little bit more green, so I can get that movement between orange and orange towards the green going through the yellow areas, and I put the yellow, so I create a little triangle of colours using those three. Now next colour coming down, we'll go for the mountains at the back, the hills at the back there. Again, it looks like to me like a green. You can see it's very dull. So I'm going to go these colours. How would I get them? I'm going to go for colours further apart. Perhaps the yellow with the ultramarine blue might do that. Let's have a look. Put a bit of a ultramarine blue, and see that's too yellow. I'm just going to shift it over towards more of a green, adding more blue with it. This is cobalt blue, and you can see I'm getting a quite a shade of the this green. If I keep adding more, see that the yellow is very strong. It's taking me a while to get this over towards the green. I'm getting a dark shade of the green now. Again, now if I use lots of white, see what we get. Now it doesn't look particularly bright, but you put that up there, that's pretty good. A bit more blue maybe with it. and you're getting those lovely colours in there. Get more greenish in there, a bit more white again. More cobalt blue needed. You're getting nice shifts between the two, between the green and the blue, and within that. Now, the next one I'm going to go for is the tree colours over here, and you can see there's kind of the colours, the shadows in there. There's a kind of aerial perspective in this painting. The idea is they're kind of like almost like a yellow-orange light coming down from the sunlight, and then you get in this kind of hazy blue caused by the colour of air. In fact, Manet, when he went painting out with Monet, he saw this hazy blue as the colour of the air itself, the colour of the atmosphere. And he went back home after painting with Monet, claiming that Monet had discovered the colour of the atmosphere being a kind of purple or blue or purple blue, which I think is very true to nature. If you look at nature, you discover, you go out in the hot weather, you'll notice in distance sometimes that the blues or greys can go hazy, and we call it aerial perspective. As things go back, they look more blue. Very beautiful colours, and also the yellows aren't quite so strong. You see these colours over here. So what I could do is kind of get these two colours by using a pair. So if I use ultramarine blue and a yellow, might find that the ultramarine blue will kill the yellow off slightly to one side of it because it's a warm colour, and then the yellow will calm down the ultramarine blue a little bit. They're not opposites, but they're not far off opposites. So a little bit more orange, and you get the opposite. So you get really dark colours, so dark greens, and just hovering. And some of these dark greens, I think, are in the painting a bit more. Moving over towards ultramarine blue, and it's got a bit of yellow with it, calms it down, and then again using white, quite a lot of white there. And you're getting these lovely movement of colour. Now I've got to actually put more white in there, and in the blues. Ultramarine blue needed. Put too much yellow in that on my knife. Again, using more white. You're getting these kind of combinations next to each other where you get these yellows. A few other kind of warmer colours there, kind of oranges in there, which I'll look at those in a bit. But as I come further, you can see some of these yellow colours appear in the grass as well. I can brighten those up, just using more. As it comes towards you, it's looking a little bit more of a purer colour coming across there. So I've got those colours in my painting now. I've got the shifts and the dark greens in there. The dark greens as well, I think, are in the foreground here within this with some of these purples. And then we've got these oranges, kind of orange pinky colours. Now, I think looking at that, I think we're looking at a good back on that being the yellow, cadmium yellow and cobalt violet. You get these lovely copper colours. There's something I discovered when I was at art school. When I'm mixing those two, I end up with these coppers. They're lovely colours, like that. And you put white with that as well, you get these lovely pinky colours that are around here. As it goes in, it moves over towards more of an orange. If you're using more cadmium yellow, it will go across the orange areas, and some of these colours a bit more red with it. It's gone a bit too yellow. You get all these different kind of shades of orange. We're a bit pinkish, a bit more white with that. And yeah, it's lovely, just spot on there, just going into there. So fantastic pair. A lot of people would never imagine mixing cobalt violet with the cadmium yellow to get these colours in between there, but I've just got a lovely shift in that. Now going back into the haystack, I've got this warm colour here. I think it may be the same combination of the yellow and the violet, but not so much white here for this. So if I use the cadmium yellow, get more cadmium yellow, excuse me. Look at that. And again with the violet and the yellow, and you get these richer colours, and then move over towards the violet and get more red browns without using white, as you've got here, getting these colours there. A little bit of white just to make it more of a tone. Is not much white, and you're getting these colours, and moving over towards the violet. You can then again more white there, and you're getting these lovely movement of colours in there. That's lovely, just to get those mix of those colours. Similar colour, again, same pair, just a darker version, more white with these colours. And then I've got the roof of the haystack there. Again, there's a kind of grey purple. And this is where vermilion's important. I got a cadmium red, and I've just put a cadmium orange with the cadmium red to make the cadmium red more of a vermilion. Vermilion being slightly more of an orange colour. Very important this, because if you get the wrong colour, you won't get the colour. It will be too bright or too grey. It's hard to know exactly what the pigments were like that Monet were using, but there shouldn't be any that much difference to what I'm using. They're quite standard. All paints you get, ultramarine blues more or less the same. Cadmium orange can vary, but vermilion can vary as well. But I've got a vermilion here, and I'm mixing that with the ultramarine blue. And you can see that's moving. Can you see that? I come back over that. Go back to the red again. Not so much white. Now, just looking a little bit to that red, just needs a bit more orange with it, so I'm just going to put a bit. So if I use a bit more orange in the mix, it will shift it over towards more of the grayer colour. My vermilion I've mixed there wasn't quite the same. That's fine, that's better. So I've actually used 3 colours for this. I've actually mixed it. I've got the cadmium red with the cadmium orange rather than using vermilion, and I'm using the grey and then moving over towards the red, and you get these lovely combinations of different reds and bits of oranges from this colour coming into that as well, so there's quite a lot of colours in there. Right, I could start painting. Any of the colours I need to do, I'm just going to start putting some paint on. I just sketched this out. All I did was just this burnt sienna and white, save time, and I've got a felt tip traced. I just traced that very quickly. Remember, these are what I'm doing now is a colour study. There's no way. I mean, that take ages. The painting itself is about 100 centimetres by 3.5 foot, something like that, wide. And I'm just going to have a go trying to get those colours as close as I can very quickly by working with a dry brush. So I'm going to go for the sky colour. This is not dry enough, my brush. Just so dry it, build up the paint with just a dry colour like that. The sky underneath. These little colour studies are really fun to do. I mean, I've got bits of grey blue in there as well. Now, the grey blue, you've got the orange, and for the grey blue in there, I didn't mix that. I just got the orange and ultramarine blue. You get this lovely, if you mix these two, these are complementary colours. This is just to calm down the. See, that's going too brown, so to use more blue. So you can just see the blue in it, and then when you mix the two, you can just see that's blue. Then again, quite a lot of white will give you a grey blue. That looks beautiful with that combination. That's what it's got. It's got this grey blue with these grey yellows, and I can use a clean brush in that. So bring in these more white needed still. Excuse fingers, just to break it up a bit more. Too much paint on my brush. Need more dry paint. Almost pointless, this painting, and it's kind of dry paint breaking it all up, the little tiny marks of colours, breaking up bits of more of an orange coming into these as well, a thicker orange, taking out the background colour totally here, and keeping the colours very clean. Now the colour underneath that, I've got the another clean dry brush, so not much colour, just to drag down. This should give me that. That's lovely. That's just bringing out that colour. Again, just using dry paint. Very subtle colours. I mean, it looks very intense, but going a bit more of a green over this side, and more white needed. Again, dry brush, going for the trees and the bits of light breaking up on the trees here. Bits of blue in that. A bit of the green as well, some darker greens in here. And some of these dark greens are also in the shaded area here, the shadow here. Now, so the haystacks, another clean brush. Just picking out the bits of colour. I mean, I could rub that in to mix it with a ground colour underneath. Should make it a bit more reddish. See that? Just pull a slight, rub in the colour with a dry brush, like it goes more pink, because what's happened, the colour's coming underneath and mixing with that, and I can then bring in, maybe see darker colours, and here maybe too much white there for that, but got some more of a purple colours, darker colours and purples in there as well, which I've got on the top bit, more of them. And then some more of an orangey colours within that as well from the other two. There's a bit of light just catching there, which I've just missed, so let's just try to grate that away. The edge of that is very important. Just try and get that by taking off paint, excuse me. Scrape away with my finger, that'll do it. Not to lose the edge of that as well. Now just go for the greens, putting some of those greens into the painting. Clean brushes needed. I can go for the yellow and the blue. Get some of those greens. Put them down over here so you can see what I'm doing. A bit more yellows, a bit of white with them. And put a bit of white with those as well. They look a little bit, some of them going towards a blue. So you get some lovely shifts of colour, all these different colours and yellows in the painting. Perhaps a little bit more white with the yellow to the distance there. We've got the bits of more white again, getting into the distance. There are little broken bits of colour getting a bit stronger as they come towards me. So I'm just putting a bit more yellow with them. and then some of these greens will be appearing a bit turquoisey colour. You can see there within those colours there. Just brighten them up with a bit of viridian, so some of the greens are a bit stronger. Perhaps a bit strong, but we're just going to put more white with them. White will calm it down a little bit. Still feel it a bit too strong. Go back to the cobalt blue. And some clean yellow. That's more like it, just kind of more of a and back to the haystack again over this side. I'll go for the it's darker, and then I've got quite a dark blue in there. So the dark blue I'm going to mix with the complementary colour, just a bit of orange with the dark blue, and put more white with that. That's lovely. That just gives you the bits of these same colours in the shadow here, taking out some of the oranges that are in there. And you've got a kind of some darker orange colours in here, excuse it. Just dragged in that. Using different colours around the painting. Then these colours around the side of the painting. A bit more pinkish, more orange. Just looking a little bit not strong enough, so I'm going to go for, when it's funny when you mix your colours and you put them on, you can see I'm going to go for alizarin crimson and the yellow to get some stronger colours. Stronger oranges there, and put lots of white with those, so then loads of white. Much more white. That's more like it. I think it's going down a bit more yellow with it. Just running out of space, but like it, and I'm getting all these oops. That's more like it, more orange and more yellow in that. Bits of stronger yellows in there, breaking all that up, and it goes a little bit brighter around the edges there. And more red. Use fingers, but just using that bits of colour in there. And there's some of these pink colours appearing around here in the grass, and then you've got some cooler greens. Some of the turquoisey green colours I use for the background there in the hills at the back are appearing in here as well. Just helps link up the painting. some darker colours as well. The dark greens I got before. It's a bit darker, also a bit darker over the back there. Helps bring out these colours. And I'm going to need to take quite a lot of these yellows out of the way here. Take a bit easy. Stronger yellows coming into it as well. Lift things up a little bit. And then got the lovely blue again for the shadow. And then the darkness of the top of the, making it even darker. Bits of violet in there. Now, I think I'm getting that. I mean, it's just a little bit more good. Clean brush needed. Some of those greens at the back and the trees kind of break them up. Get there. Brings out this green. The green at the back comes out because of the darkness of those trees around there. But bits of yellow. Take away some of these orangey colours that are still dominating the painting. Getting close to that. I mean, I could keep on and keep finishing the painting and building up, but I think I've done enough just to look at the painting now. Take off my tape. The background, it's not quite finished there, but I mean, I think I've done enough just to show you how the colours will work. And the two colour mixing, basically, the only colour I've not used a two colour mixing, I would say, would be the yellowish colour in the sky within that. And anyway, hope you enjoyed that. The next painter we're going to look at, I'm going to look at Marlene Dumas, a contemporary painter. I think she's kind of up there with Monet as a quality mixer. She's a very intuitive painter. I'm going to be looking at a couple of her paintings. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that, and don't forget to subscribe. So bye, everyone.